Welcome to the Wispering podcast, where our goal is to change the volume on some of life's most difficult conversations. This podcast is brought to you by Wisp, an online telehealth community for women and men looking for reliable and discreet online care for their sexual and reproductive health needs. Log on to hellowisp.com and get same-day prescriptions for UTI, yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, oral herpes, aka cold sores, and many more. Medication can be picked up at a local pharmacy, or you can have meds shipped in discreet packaging directly to your home. Online consultations only take a few minutes, and all medication is prescribed by U.S. licensed doctors for all 50 states. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wispering podcast, and we have the wonderful ladies of It All Media here. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
And we also have a special guest as well. Jenny, you want to say hi?
Hi, I'm Jenny Dwork, VP of Brand Marketing from Wisp. So happy to be here with you, Simone.
I know.
And It All Media.
We have a whisper here with us. So, guys, are y'all ready for the conversation today? How are we feeling?
As ready as I'm gonna be.
Yeah, let's do it.
All
I'm
right.
also gonna give a little technical shout out. Jenny, get up on that mic.
Yeah,
Don't be
Jenny, come on.
afraid. Get up in there.
All up in it.
We are in a beautiful space where the ladies from It All Media work from, and it's an amazing podcast studio. But yeah, we're just trying to figure out how to accommodate all of us, and we figured it out.
Y'all are just going to roll with it, so it's all good. All right, babes, let's dive into it. So, first question, this is for everybody, okay? What are some examples of censorship in media that you have witnessed or, you just experienced as professionals and then working in sexual and reproductive healthcare space? So, Jenny, if you want to go first, you can.
Yes. We talk a lot about this, and it's shocking to me working in this space. As we've been growing the Wisp brand, we've really encountered it at all levels. Starting when we started putting up our paid ads on social media, we saw a lot of censorship from Meta, TikTok, Snapchat, all of the social media channels that we're trying to run ads on, which makes it really difficult. We'd get rejections for our content all the time, which sometimes, there would be guidelines from these media organizations around what we could or couldn't say. And other times we didn't know why our content was getting suppressed. So we would have to really have a hands-on approach working with our account representatives to say, hey, this doesn't make sense. Can we get this appealed? Can we start running our ad? And it's just highly disruptive from an operations point of view, from a budgeting and media perspective. So that's one thing on digital media, which really I think has a long way to go in terms of updating its policies. We're not allowed to talk about female pleasure, sexual pleasure on Meta. We are not allowed to talk about certain categories of care like herpes on TikTok, which impacts, we know, the majority of the population. Yeah. And then all the way up to trying to do out-of-home advertising in different cities. We tried to run a billboard in Times Square earlier in the year that said, we love healthy vaginas because we do, and because that's what we're all about, and we're looking to destigmatize that word. And we were told by the folks at Clear Channel that it was not family friendly. Let that sink in. I will provide some, great updates there. The mayor of New York came out and said that we should work to destigmatize the word vagina because he recognizes that a lot of healthcare companies are popping up in this space and wants New York to be more friendly towards those businesses. And we had a big win. We just got that same ad approved to run in a week. So vaginas will be coming to Times Square, which is amazing.
I'm so excited and proud of you.
Thank you. But we deal with these, and more issues will come up, and we'll just keep educating and doing what we got to do.
Here we go.
Mic drop.
Come on, I'm telling you.
Do you know the medical term for someone who experiences herpes, cold sores, chronic UTIs, yeast infections, or BV? It's called being human. At hellowisp.com, you can get the sexual health care you need same day without stepping foot in a doctor's office. Privately message a doctor online and get same-day prescriptions for BV, yeast, UTIs, STIs, herpes, cold sores, birth control, and emergency contraceptive. Delivered discreetly to your home for free in all 50 states. Or sent directly to your local pharmacy within 3 hours. Only at hellowisp.com. That's hello, WISP.com.
Well, our podcast is called Fuck It All.
It's very on brand.
Yeah. And, it started out of my own frustration around this idea that we've all been told, girl, you can have it all. And it's what we've come to understand, like a lot of fallacy built into that. And so fuck was intentional because as women, we're told to be good, to make ourselves small, to adapt to whatever space we occupy. And we felt like as a media company, especially one that's women-centered, to come out and say we're not going to shy away from that word. And we've had a lot of pushback, everything from investors to distribution, to say, you're never going to get where you want to go if you don't take that word out of it.
Right.
Fortunately, social media, building your own communities, direct access to who you want to talk to, we've consistently seen that fuck is actually what makes our brand feel something. And so that we, despite it maybe keeping us out of certain circles, we just feel adamant that we'll make our own.
Yeah, I agree. I think too we've had to edit ourselves.
Get up on it, girl.
Edit ourselves on social media, as you guys were talking about. Like, we are learning the ropes of TikTok. We are 2 millennials, so that is a challenge in and of itself. But when Casey and I formed this company, something that was really important to us, and we learned quickly, was that VC investment was not going to be a direction for us, because we never wanted to lose the mouthpiece of our company, being women founders. And it's really important to us to represent and amplify women's voices in that space. And so we knew that we would be, in fact, censored if we ever lost, creative control of what we were saying. So.
I'm just going to add, and I think this conversation will probably, we all have so much to say on this. Speaking about that reminded me of our journey with medical abortion. We're the largest telehealth provider of medical abortion. This is not something that we would have been able to roll out had we been VC backed, like most of the other telehealth brands out there. We were lucky enough to, have a strong business and have strong partners in the company that owns us, Well Health, the majority stake of our business. They are out of Canada, and they have a different approach to abortion care in that country. And while we did kind of dip our toes in, because we are a business at the end of the day, and we didn't want to alienate our patients, so we dipped our toes in and said, okay, well, what if we do a social post with supporting abortion care? What if we do an email? And we took that feedback and we saw that it was largely positive and only a few negative responses. And so that gave us further conviction to say, okay, we all believe abortion care is healthcare and we want to offer this. It's not going to alienate our patients. They're actually going to be excited and happy that our brand is standing for this. And we've been able to roll that out. And it's actually been, while it's the right thing to do, we're super proud of it. Our patients need it. It's also, the benefits have been amazing. The PR that has come from it, the earned media. So it just kind of shows if your values, I think, are in the right place, then the audience, the community, the impressions will come.
Make me so proud to be a woman. I love it. All right, well, Jenny, since you were already, here, I'm gonna bring it back to you. So, why do you think censorship is so prevalent in the sexual and reproductive health industry, and then also what impact do you think it has on patients?
Yeah. I mean, that's a large question, right?
No, we only have 15 minutes.
It can tie back to so many things, right? Misogyny. It can go back to lack of education, a lack of resources, just legacy. I think all of these things. And so I would just say, whatever the reasons, it's up to us to educate. I think what we really try to lean back on is education, and kind of like the proof is in the pudding. And so, like with the example with medical abortion, it was like, okay, well, let's let the audience speak for themselves. Let's put out this content. Let's see what happens in a measured way. And we'll let the results really dictate. And so that's one thing that we do. We'll put out a piece of content that might be, highly stigmatized or censored, and we'll see the reception and we'll see its impact, and we'll take it from there. But I think a huge part is just always the education, which is why the podcast, what you're working on with our team, is is so important. We just want to be on every channel, no matter where you are. We want to be educating and pushing. And I think like the example with vagina is a really, like, if we can get in 6 months a change of opinion on a billboard in Times Square, like, what else can we do?
Can we do from
Like,
here? Yeah.
we can do a lot.
It's only up for here, honestly.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
We can't tell you exactly what it does, but you'll be saying OMG over and over. Order OMG cream online only at hellowisp.com. That's hello, WISP.com. And have it delivered free.
All right, girls, this one's for y'all. So can you tell us about the censorship you faced in terms of media and how it is in the industry, and then how do you think it impacts your audience specifically? It was the deep sigh for me.
Yeah. I think so. Our entire model is story to system.
Okay.
And so stories impact our beliefs impact our actions, and actions ultimately create the systems that run our lives at work, at home, and in our communities.
Right.
And so when you start to think about censorship of any kind, whether it's taboo or an internalized shame, all the way to what we do not put on mass media, social media, television, etc. It's and Jenny, we were talking about this earlier today, when we're told not to say something, it then, whether we intend to or not, it internalizes a feeling of shame that it's bad.
Right.
So when we hear the word vagina is censored, that is now internalizing in a lot of people that vaginas are bad.
Yeah.
And so that to me is, we have to sit there and ask, and I think, is that true? No, you weren't out there saying profanity.
Right.
You weren't out there promoting something that's not healthy for people, for the mass public. And so that to me is, it really then makes me think, well, who benefits from this censorship? And that then you begin to go to the big P, the patriarchy.
Down with them.
Yeah.
That's not a good big P.
No.
Lots of big P's we like. That
ain't one of them.
But for me, that has been the awakening in our business. So we always tell the story, and you feel free to jump in here. 2021, January, we're sitting there. We're like, we are going to get into NFTs, guys. And we start working on our Web3 strategy. And then May happens, when the Roe v. Wade leak happens. And this moment for us was just like, it was all deficiency needs. Like, everything prior to that had been this growth needs. And what we'd been seeing, even in the media, had been like, girl boss, go get them. You can make money and build And then we
were focusing on creating systems, like NFTs is a new financial system being built that women are not currently a part of.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we need to get women in there and educate them in this space. Again, education in this space. And instead we were like, oh shit, like our basic needs are not being met.
Yeah.
And let's track back.
And so that then got us started on really understanding what's happening in the sexual and reproductive health space. I think that we were talking earlier with the team here that we didn't even know we should have been pissed off.
Got it.
And so there were so many things, like, we are educated, we are civically engaged, civically minded, we are progressive, all of these things that you would think like, oh, I would be ripe to know this.
Right.
We are in our mid-30s. Like, I have a child, and there's things I'm learning about my body on the other side of that. And so that then for us, it started us thinking, what were the stories we were told within our families? Our moms actually have been an amazing learning ground for us, because we look cross-generation. We tell the story of pelvic floor. I came home after my daughter, God love her, 20-some hours in labor. Pelvic floor is destroyed. So I come home and I'm telling my mom about it. And so she starts kind of like whispering at the dinner table, like, hence the podcast. But she's like, oh, so like you went to that kind of doctor? Like, she's saying it as if I like,
You just said
something bad. And then
Why do we censor? What?
Exactly. And then she comes to me like a week later and she's like, so I want to know more about that, because I think I might need to go to that doctor. cut to a month later. We're sitting at dinner. We do like a family dinner. Everybody's there. My sons-in-law, his husband. She's like, yes, so I went to the doctor and they said, instead of saying vagina, she said vajayjay. And I just thought that was, which it was insane. Yeah. But she's just like openly talking about her vagina at the dinner table.
Go, Mom.
And it's one of those that you just see, though, like she's 60-some years old, and that was a new experience for her, born from our ability to not censor our experiences.
With local government, but I think it all starts with our community and these conversations we're having and with the listeners. And I talk about it with my friends too. And we're all like a very progressive group in New York City. But it's like the more comfortable I've gotten talking about these things, and you talked about the internalized shame, STIs, as we talk about on the podcast, like herpes, there's so much shame attached to it when so much of the population has herpes, males, females. There's so much misinformation around it. And so just starting there with education, we can all do that. We can all get a little bit smarter, a little more educated, and spread the word.
Yeah. And just even with that little tidbit about herpes, one of my closest friends, we've known each other for like maybe about a couple of months. And she was like, I need to sit down and talk to you about something really important. In my mind, like this is probably around the cusp of me doing the podcast. And I'm like, is she going to tell me something about her sexually that she's, ashamed of? And she brought up the fact that she has herpes. And I'm like, girl, first of all, I thank you for trusting me with that, but there's no shame behind it. She's like, well, I just wanted to tell you because I didn't want you to look at me differently. And I'm like, this is the stuff that I'm wanting to talk about on the podcast to get people just to break down that wall, because it's just so unfair that people feel like they can't get close to people, even if it's just for friendship, because of what they're battling with. So I'm glad we're all doing what we're doing, but I just feel like we have a long way to go. But this is such a great start. And again, it starts again with communication and education, like y'all said. And speaking of, social media and all that, so in terms of censorship with social media, search engines, like from y'all's perspective, this is for everybody, how do you feel that plays a role in censorship? And then also, how do you go about navigating these challenges personally? So Jenny, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, right? That's where the majority of media time is really spent, on these platforms. And so it's really important that we engage these partners. I think, it's tough. Like, we see who is in charge of these companies, and maybe they don't exactly look like us. But I think, again, it goes back to education. We work really closely with our reps and trying to understand. There's also amazing organizations in the space. The Center for Intimacy Justice is one that we work really closely with. They put out an amazing report about Meta and their practices and how other companies in our spaces were facing censorship, and it was unequal to what our male counterparts were facing. And so really trying to, and it got a lot of press coverage. So I think trying to hold these companies accountable and at the same time bring them to the table wherever we can. I was, lucky enough to go down to an event in DC earlier this year, and at the table were a lot of these tech companies. And so we were really focused on abortion on that particular, in that conference, but just highlighting what these issues are. Again, education, so that we can work together to move the needle. And I think it's all of these efforts, right? And we're all in it working together. I think that's the thing that I've kind of enjoyed most working in this space is we know we're all greater together. And so how can we best tell that story to affect change?
Let's be honest, preventing pregnancy is a pain. Whether you're picking birth control up every month or running to grab Plan B, it costs too much time, money, and effort. All while your partner gets to go about their day uninterrupted. Wisp is changing the game. At hellowisp.com, you can get the reproductive care you need without stepping foot in a doctor's office or waiting in line. Have birth control delivered on your schedule and get emergency contraceptive before you need it. That's hellowisp.com and have it delivered for free.
I was just going to say that, so Casey and I work exclusively with category creating brands. We call them CCBs. And they are brands that are categorically changing the game or rewriting a narrative. And again, around this education, rewriting the stories that we've been told since the beginning of time. And I don't know if there's a brand that we work with today that hasn't been shut down in some capacity on a social media channel for censorship purposes because of what the information and education is all truth that they're putting out. And we just even recently learned that sex ed in Georgia doesn't even have to be accurate. That's medically accurate. So there's just things out there that we're actually putting out truthful educational pieces on these media platforms and getting shut down for it. And I think that in and of itself, these brands rewriting the stories, as you say, we always say like collaboration is going to be like the key to actually taking down the patriarchy and rewriting the narrative on the systems that run our lives.
Yeah, Jenny, I really love what you were saying around creating transparency of what these policies are. I think that one of our superpowers amidst censorship is to let the audience know that you are being censored.
Yeah.
And so being able, I know as we've learned around, as we've learned from WISP, the things that you all have faced when we heard about Georgia education, sex education not being medically accurate, those are these sound bites that we tell people in our circle. And then the next question is, what can I do?
Yeah.
And so I find that sometimes you may not be getting the actual information out, but to let people know that censorship and limitation of message and education is happening drives action, because that directly goes against so many of the things that, at the core of a democracy stands for freedom of speech, ability to put information out there, and where, we're being censored on our most basic, fundamental human health.
Yep.
So.
Okay, I know we're getting down to crunch time, so I'm going to ask like this one universal question, and then we can all just kind of go through it. So what advice do you guys have for anyone who's speaking on sexual and reproductive health? That includes advocates, influencers, providers. Like when it comes to facing censorship challenges in content creation, like do you guys have any personal advice or, professional advice on how they should go about it? Jenny, you want to start, and then we can kind of go around?
Yeah, I think is first making sure that the information is accurate, it's aligned with your values, and you have to really stand behind it, right? Like it has to be something that should be out there in the world, because you'll have to fight for it. And then I think going back to everything we've talked about, it's about community, sharing that with your community. I think that's been a huge unlock for all of us, sharing these resources. Our friends at SECA, Sex Ed for Social Change, planc.org. It's all about creating that strong network, sharing information, sharing resources. We're all really stretched on resources. So what can we do to amplify? There's many, campaigns that we've all done together. We're doing this event together. So that's going to be your strongest resource, is having allies in the space. Taking a breath, doing what you need to do for yourself, because you can't always fight. And then just being really clear and articulate. And I think documenting everything as well. What are the policies? What did you see in the data? What ads were rejected that maybe shouldn't have been? Collecting all of that and really, sharing it with your community.
Yeah, I was just going to double down on that. It's strength in numbers. Reach out. Like our reach as a company is 5-fold when we partner with others and share our information on their channels. And so definitely that. And then honestly, vote. Like know who your representatives are and get out there. Your vote counts. Absolutely, your voice counts.
Yeah. The last piece I'll say, because you were talking about influencers and content creation, I think that inclusive conversation is really important right now in this moment in time, especially as our laws are harsher and more harmful than ever. And so I think that what we realize is we are two cis women, we are two white women, and so our experience with sexual and reproductive health and vaginal health and all of the things that are encapsulated in this conversation is unique to our experiences. And so we really focus on, and that's where collaboration is, what is the space we can create to invite others in of a different perspective, to make sure. And so it's a curiosity. I think there's also, we make sure the intention is really clear, but that, we're coming at it to do no harm. But I think also, I don't want us to not take action out of fear of doing or saying the wrong thing. I would rather us do something with the right intentions and then be okay to learn in public, be okay to call in, be okay to evolve. And I think this is a space, especially right now, it's not that our trans and non-binary brothers and sisters and friends are new. It's that the exposure that we have as a collective is new.
Yeah.
And so our language is evolving. It feels clunky right now because we exist in a binary society, all of these things. And so what we've just tried to do is give the disclaimer at the front is we're learning too,
Mm-hmm.
but being willing to learn and create the space to hear from the people who actually have the experience that's different than ours.
Yeah. Wow. Y'all are beautiful, amazing, and I love it here. Listen, and definitely let everybody know how to get in touch with you, because I know this is going to be going out, to our followers, but definitely let them know how to get in touch with you guys, and of course, where we can find your podcast as well.
Amazing. Thank you for that opportunity. So we are itallmedia.co, no M there, just co. And wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, anywhere in between, Fuck It All Podcast. The real word, no asterisks.
Emphasis.
Yes, exactly. And unfortunately, that's not been shut down. So yay. But yeah, that's our best way. And then at It All Media on all of the channels that are out in the world, Instagram, TikTok. I don't think we're on Twitter anymore because, it's going down over there.
Oh, it really is, literally and figuratively is going down.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jenny, thank you so much. It's very rare that we get an actual, another whisper on here, so I'm just so happy to have you, and thank you again for joining us. Did you want to say anything before we head out?
Thank you so much for being the beautiful voice of Wisp. We couldn't do it without you.
I appreciate y'all for giving me the space. And again, if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us on Instagram and TikTok at hellowisp. And until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This podcast is brought to you by Wisp, an online telehealth community for women and men looking for reliable and discreet online care for their sexual and reproductive health needs. Log on to hellowisp.com and get same-day prescriptions for UTI, yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, oral herpes, aka cold sores, and many more. Medication can be picked up at a local pharmacy, or you can have meds shipped in discreet packaging directly to your home. Online consultations only take a few minutes, and all medication is prescribed by U.S. licensed doctors for all 50 states.